Today, we're going to trace a massive shift in global power. We'll start all the way back at the geopolitical drawing boards of World War II, and then we'll travel right up to the high-tech microchip labs of modern-day California. It's going to be a fascinating ride, so let's get into it.
We're breaking this economic paradigm shift into 5 quick acts. First, the Bretton Woods system. Then, post-Cold War complacency, a changed world, rebuilding domestic power, and finally, the California Innovation Engine.
All right, Act 1, the Bretton Woods system. Let's look at how the modern economic world was originally built.
Picture this. It's 1944. Representatives from 44 different nations get together in Bretton Woods to create a brand new, highly regulated global monetary order. And the anchor for the whole shebang? Fixed exchange rates tied directly to the US dollar and gold bullion.
You can see how it played out right here. They signed the agreement in '44, and by 1946, the IMF Board of Governors has their very first meeting. This fixed-rate setup actually did a great job of preventing countries from constantly devaluing their currencies to compete, but, things change, and it ultimately gave way to floating rates in the early 1970s.
Which brings us to Act 2, post-Cold War complacency, marking a huge shift in our strategic assumptions.
So throughout the 1990s and the post-9/11 era, the U.S. had this unprecedented level of military and economic dominance. And honestly, it kind of created a false sense of security. Policymakers actually started to believe that intense, great power competition was just a relic of the past.
Take a look at this comparison because it perfectly captures the wake-up call. We used to assume that global integration would just naturally solve geopolitical rivalries, right? We basically ignored market failures, but then, bam, we hit the new reality. Fierce great power competition, incredibly fragile supply chains, and the absolute necessity to invest back into domestic manufacturing.
Moving on to Act 3, a changed world. The post-Cold War era is officially in the rearview mirror.
In a piece for Foreign Affairs, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan outlines this exact pivot. He points out that the U.S. is at a major inflection point. The new primary challenge? Trying to manage intense strategic competition while we are all still deeply globally interconnected.
His core takeaway really hits the nail on the head. International power depends on a strong domestic economy. Basically, you absolutely cannot project superpower strength abroad if your domestic industries are completely hollowed out and relying on foreign competitors back home.
So how exactly does a nation fix that? That brings us to Act 4, rebuilding domestic power.
The current administration's economic strategy, often referred to as Bidenomics, is all about tackling this issue head-on. The goal here is building economic resilience. How? Through massive public investments in innovation, infrastructure, and absolutely critical sectors like semiconductors and clean energy.
We're talking about some truly far-reaching legislation here. You've got the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, the CHIPS and Science Act, the Inflation Reduction Act. These aren't just spending bills. They are highly targeted efforts to secure our most vulnerable supply chains. They're designed to protect everything from the battery in your smartphone to advanced military defense systems.
And the scale of this is just staggering, $3.5 trillion. That is the estimated amount of public and private investment expected to pour into semiconductors and clean energy over the next decade. It's a literal reshaping of the industrial base.
Finally, Act 5, the California Innovation Engine. Let's see what all this macro-level strategy actually looks like on the ground.
Imagine walking straight into a high-tech lab in California. It's exactly this kind of place where the rubber meets the road. These research and development sectors are the physical engines driving this whole new era of national security and innovation.
And when you look at the numbers, it's wild how concentrated this effort is. Check this out. In San Mateo County alone, you have a cluster of just over 300 companies generating an unbelievable $2.7 billion in R&D spending. That is a massive concentration of intellectual and financial capital in one tiny area.
When we look at these maps side by side, you can literally see that physical clustering of tech and manufacturing businesses. This dense packing of talent, infrastructure, and capital, it creates this incredible network effect that just rapidly accelerates the pace of innovation.
And the data totally backs this up. Look at these location quotients for California. Their concentration of computer and peripheral equipment manufacturing is over 3.5 times the national average. These hyper-specialized local hubs are quite literally the linchpin of America's global strategy.
So, bringing it all together, what's the ultimate goal here? It's all about building resilient, durable supply chains. The idea is to make sure the country is never again dangerously vulnerable to price shocks or supply disruptions engineered by external powers.
So as great power competition shifts away from traditional military might and moves toward microchips and local supply chains, I want to leave you with this question. Is your local economy ready for the new realities of global power? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer today.